McAdoo is out. Gronk is sorry, and the Seahawks are back. But we begin today with the Final Four in college football. 3 spots with chalk. Clemson, Oklahoma, and Georgia all won easily on Saturday. They are all one-loss power conference champions. The fourth choice is the one to talk about. The committee selected one-loss conference also ran Alabama over 2-loss conference champion Ohio State. Wilbon, did the committee get it right?
There's no right and wrong. They did okay to me, and I'm a Big Ten guy. But as I sat there, I told you going into the game, Wisconsin wins, we're in. If Wisconsin loses, they're going to take Alabama. To me, this was what the committee was going to do. Their football coaches primarily in that room.
There's 5 coaches.
They're going to, okay, fine. I bet you they dominate the room. And most importantly, if Ohio State wants to get in, then don't lose by 140 points in Iowa. They lost 2 games they were favored to win. I have no sympathy, even for my own conference, in this situation. If Wisconsin had won, Alabama wouldn't be in. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
I'm going to go differently than you because all Saturday morning, I thought Ohio State was going to get in over Alabama. I'm going to give you 2 reasons that I thought it was going to happen. One is geographic.
Sunday morning, you mean yesterday morning, you thought.
Sunday morning, yes. One is geographic distribution. You now have 3 Southern teams and a Southwestern team. If you end up, for example, the final between Clemson and Georgia, you have a regional game. They're like 80 miles apart.
Yeah, maybe I don't know
how popular that is around the country.
People in the room don't care about that.
But I'm giving you my reasons. Okay. I think it's a television show. Okay. And I think football is played in the Midwest. A lot of football is played there. And I thought it would be smarter to take Ohio State. The second reason is that for the second year in a row, you have a Big Ten champion not in the game. Now, it's not the SEC. That's the best, but it's the next best. Okay. So I was surprised at this.
How about giving me some reasons that you think might appeal to the people in the room? They don't care about a television show.
They should.
They're marketers.
They should.
They're coaches. Or people who used to coach.
Don't you think they don't care? They don't care about conference champions?
Tony.
Really?
They don't. Clearly not, because Alabama didn't even win its division in its conference, and they put them in. So, no, they don't care.
I'm going to tell you this.
You know what? SC got overlooked in this.
Well,
because they had a tougher strength of schedule.
But Notre Dame
killed them. SEC could have been taken.
Notre Dame killed them.
Okay, well, Alabama played poorly 2 games in a row, and Ohio State died in Iowa.
If Auburn had won, I think there was a better chance of Ohio State getting in because Auburn had decisively beaten Alabama.
You know what I think?
Yes.
I think Ohio State wasn't getting in at all. They weren't getting in. They were going to take Alabama.
We'll see if it works.
To do.
And maybe, you know, another reason.
They're impressed by Nick Saban and what he does.
Last year, Ohio State got killed.
Crushed.
Killed.
So stop defending Ohio State. Stop.
Not defending Ohio State. That's what I thought.
My would-be position, and I won't even do it. As promised by various news agencies over the weekend, the New York football Giants lost on Sunday and cleaned house on Monday, as in this morning. GM Jerry Reese out. Coach Ben McAdoo out. Eli Manning reportedly back in. Tony, the Giants had never before fired a coach in just his 2nd season, and this guy won 11 and made the playoffs in his 1st. So this is totally out of character, but considering the shape the Giants are in, is it the right move?
I thought it was a very personal move that John Mara made. I think he did it to cover himself. I think he did it because
they screwed up earlier last week, a few days ago.
I think benching Eli Manning, they were not prepared for the eruption that happened in New York. And John Mara went up there today and he said, quote, if you want to blame anyone on the Eli Manning situation, blame me. I could have overruled it, which he didn't, which is why I think that these people were fired at this particular point. Because if you ask me why do it now, I'd go, I don't know. They're 2-10. They're not going anywhere.
You can get a head start on next year.
Head start on what?
On next year.
You're not getting the coach you name, and you're not even going to name a GM because Mara was absolutely crystal clear that a GM was going to run this whole show.
That's right.
So no,
they get a head start on him.
They
can't figure that out.
No, they don't.
They can't go talk to Bill Polian and find his phone number.
They can do that without firing these people. This is a cosmetic move to calm the water in New York.
We know that's true. They also stink.
Yeah, they stink.
The Giants are dreadful. I wish that this was centering on another city slightly smaller today where they should have fired their GM and coach. And I'm talking about the Chicago Bears after they stunk it out. Now, the Giants, Tony, they're bad. They don't have any players, and the ones they had got hurt. So they had no depth. They're blaming Reese for that. So start looking for your GM.
They're also talking about the notion that they had to see what else they had in quarterback. If that's true, you put that kid Davis Webb in there. You don't put Geno Smith in there. You know what you got in Geno
Eli's going to go back
Smith.
now, so what?
Are you sure he's going back?
My money says he's going back. You know why? Because they're on national TV next week in prime time, and they don't want 77,000 people wearing number 10 jerseys.
Then I'm going to go back out there.
Where is Eli?
I am
Where
going
is
to go
Eli?
back on this point that John Mara is covering his behind on this because they should have stopped it. Where was he? He was in Europe? Ain't got no phone? Really?
Maybe he was in Europe.
Late in the fourth quarter of the Patriots-Bills game yesterday, Rob Gronkowski,
your boy,
was defended by Tre'Davious White on a pass from Tom Brady. There certainly looked to be lots of interference, but no flag was dropped, and White intercepted the ball. He was touched down, and he was out of bounds when Gronkowski drove his head into the ground. Afterwards, Gronkowski apologized, saying his action was born out of frustration. Today, the NFL suspended Gronk for 1 game. Wilbon, is 1 game enough?
No. If he gets the 1 game, you can't appeal this, and apparently he says he's going to appeal. There's no reducing it to a half or a quarter.
No, there's taking
not
it away,
starting.
I guess.
They should have done 2. You know, they gave these 2 dopes 2 games last week for fighting, the 2 chains incident, as I like to call it.
That's right.
And it was bad in terms of the NFL optics, but it didn't mean anything. This, a guy injured someone who is now in concussion protocol and apparently has a concussion. So if you are going to sit there and front fraudulently for the most part and tell everybody how you care about player safety, then you better suspend Gronkowski for more than a game.
I thought he would get 2 games for this. I thought it would be an escalation. This has started. There is lawlessness in the NFL right now. This started with A.J. Green grabbing a guy by the head and throwing him down. He got nothing. Then, as you say, Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree, who wanted no part of the game. This was about a grudge.
That's right.
This was about a grudge. They got 2, and that was reduced to 1. Now you have this. This is, I'm telling you, this is lawlessness.
It is.
This is not good.
It is.
And he should sit, I think, multiple games. And there's another aspect of this. There's the racial politics of this. And that is that you have a league which is primarily black, and you are suspending black players all the time. So when a white player does something totally worthy of suspension,
you give him the least possible punishment
so I think
for driving the head of a black player into the ground.
If you want to give him 2, well, I don't think that was grossly motivated.
But the NFL is going to have to deal with that if they somehow let Gronk
So I think you give him 2. If you want to reduce it to 1, I'm not going to complain about that. But you've got to give him 2.
We agree.
By the way, if he's not, if he somehow continues to play against Miami and then is out for Pittsburgh, then what are you doing to your team? That's stupid. And by the way, everybody likes to see the Patriots get slammed, and they did.
They're like 20-5 in the last 25 games without Gronk. As long as they got the guy in the hoodie and Mr. Beautiful, the golden boy,
Mr. 40
then what does it matter? It doesn't.
I think it
They'll win
matters
without Gronk.
Pittsburgh. I think it matters against Pittsburgh.
Come on. You do this every year. You had Brady, being in an assisted living facility by the end of this summer. How'd that go?
I may have been wrong on that.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know how many things you've been wrong about?
Not many.
Really?
I wasn't wrong about this. In the interest of talking about an actual football game, Tony, let's move to Eagles-Seahawks. Philly rolled in 10-1.
You're wrong about Trubisky. You love him.
Oh, stop. With an 8-game winning streak and rolled out on the wrong end of Seattle's best performance of the season. Even without Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, the Seattle defense held Philly to a season-low 10 points. Russell Wilson was again MVP spectacular. Tony, we have hours remaining on Overreaction Monday. You want to jump to grand conclusions about either or both these teams?
I don't think the Eagles' loss is that big a deal. They went 3,000 miles. They played a good team, and they lost. Carson Wentz fumbled on the 1. If he holds that ball and he goes in, maybe they win. Yeah, maybe they win. I will say this about the Seahawks, though, because there are 2 teams in the NFL that are playoff-bound most years. And they seem to play their best football in November and December most years.
Talking about Green Bay?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about Seattle and Baltimore.
Baltimore, okay.
They bubble up around this time. So I'm impressed by the Seattle win more than the Philadelphia.
I'm impressed by Seattle. I don't need to make grand conclusions. I mean, Seattle also just lost at home to the Redskins, and the Redskins aren't going to do jack this year. So they've had a couple of tough losses. One they certainly should not have had. I'm not ready to proclaim them anything, to paraphrase Denny Green, and nor with Philly. Philly's not, the 2007 Patriots or the 85 Bears. They're not.
They have to play the Rams
next week.
Right. So if they were to lose to Seattle and the Rams, that brings them back to the pack. Though when I look at Philly, I like Philly. I think
it's fine to like them. They're good. And I think that Wentz, despite the fumble he had, which cost them, He still played a pretty darn good game. But he was second last night. If we're talking MVPs, Russell Wilson, even in games he's lost, has been great.
Russell Wilson,
and he's got to play like 4 people out there.
He is their offense.
He is, isn't he?
He's lithe. He's creative. He's intelligent out there. I think Brady may get more votes, but Russell Wilson has been great. He has been great. Let's stay in the NFC for this one and focus on 2 more of the top teams in that conference. Minnesota got to 10-2 in the way that they win games on defense by beating Atlanta in Atlanta. New Orleans got to 9-3 in the way that they win games by using Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara as battering rams by beating Carolina. Wilbon, which win impressed you more?
I love these 2 throwback approaches, defense and running. Oh, my God, if we've gone back to the early 80s at latest. So I like all that. I like the way, and I have been critical when I thought it was necessary of Sean Payton for what he did or didn't do over the years. So some disappointing seasons.
He's been slamming him for a while.
I'm saying right now, let me praise Sean Payton because he's made the adjustment on the talent he has, not just on system and Drew Brees. I'm still going to go with the Vikings because that's what I like. I like defense. I like people who can hit somebody in the mouth and shut them down. And Atlanta had just gone crazy. It looked like Matty Ice and Julio Jones were going to the stratosphere.
That's right.
Not so fast.
That's right. That is the correct answer. Is Minnesota's more impressive because they're in Atlanta. Julio Jones had, I think, got 1,000 yards last week, and they held them to no touchdowns. So that's more impressive. But let me just talk a little bit about New Orleans. Because New Orleans is scary. They are scary. They are, not only are they running, they still have a Hall of Fame quarterback who's having an incredibly productive percentage
and you're not taxing
in throwing
him.
the ball.
He's not taxed.
No,
which is the point.
So if their defense only gives up 21, which is a fairly big number,
in the game.
21 or 24,
You're always in it.
They can score 35 at any point. Just as a side note, by the way, about Case Keenum, who finally Mike Zimmer isn't threatening to bench.
He needs to stop because Keenum looks really good.
So Keenum and Jared Goff were on the Rams last year, and Jeff Fisher could find nothing to do with them.
Neither of them.
Nothing.
By the way, if New Orleans and Minnesota was to play tonight, who would you take in that game? It's a neutral site. Let's say it's a Super Bowl situation.
Tonight I would take Minnesota because I always have that lingering doubt about the defense of New Orleans, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's take a break. Coming up with Aaron Rodgers back on the practice field. Are the Packers a team to take seriously again?
When he gets on the playing field, then we can talk about that more. Marcus Peters was not ejected for throwing the penalty flag. But shouldn't he have been?
Of course. It's the direct rule.
Well, but he didn't throw it at the guy. Remember the other day, somebody in a college game, a kid hit the official in the cap and knocked his hat off?
You can. It's an addiction.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Captain Morgan. Holiday like a captain. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour. Pardon the Interruption. Presented by Captain Morgan. Part of Happy Hour.
It's mail time. You send us the questions. We pretend they're good.
Come on, they're good. Where's the wig? What happened to that?
The wig is gone.
Like Carl Reiner, you just toss wigs.
With Aaron Rodgers on the mend, time to take the Packers seriously again?
Well, you got to get through one more game. I realize that game with Hundley quarterbacking one more time is against Cleveland. I realize that. Of course, Cleveland's going to beat a team in that division before this
season's over. Are they going to beat the
anyway.
Packers?
I don't think so. I think Hundley can hold them off. And then you get Rodgers if he's cleared. People keep forgetting that part. Last time we heard from him, he talked about the X-ray and not seeing it, not knowing yet. He's got to be cleared.
Okay, he would be allowed to play the last 3 games, assuming he was cleared. The last 3 go like this. At Carolina.
Might be a loss.
They're competing for the same wild card, and you have to be 10-6.
Or division title.
Okay, home against Minnesota. Minnesota, we just said how good Minnesota looked.
That's a rival.
Then it's at Detroit, and by then, maybe it's not going to matter at all. But, I mean, I think it's too high a hill to climb. I don't even think Aaron Rodgers, totally healthy, would win all 3 of those games necessarily.
Well, that's what we got to talk about. But do you think he's going to have the chance? Do you think Hundley will hold off the Browns and give Aaron Rodgers a chance to get back in there?
Yes, I do, because the Browns are terrible.
And the Packers, you talk about teams
they're terrible
good late. The Packers are good late often with Aaron Rodgers. Marcus Peters wasn't ejected for throwing a penalty flag into the stands. Should he have been? Yeah,
he should have been ejected, but who cares? This is such a minor point. The far greater issue here in this game is Kansas City, if you were watching, committed about 300 defensive penalties in the last few minutes. They couldn't get off the field, and the Jets couldn't get into the end zone. It was awful. And the even larger issue than that is Kansas City has collapsed like the Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
They scored 31 and can't win. What has happened?
Silverdome,
which didn't collapse.
Tony, the crazy thing was Peters had to have thought he was ejected, because he walks right off the field after the official throws his cap, because he doesn't have another flag, and another guy throws a flag. Here's the only reason you could contemplate, ejecting him. That thing is weighted, that penalty flag.
This is so
It can hit somebody in the stands.
It doesn't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
What matters is that Kansas City has fallen down a hole.
They fell down weeks ago.
Given how the Broncos and the Chiefs have swooned, can the Raiders be proud of being in first place?
You can be proud anytime you're in first place. And let me just say that I've sat here for about 5 weeks and heard the following sentence. The Raiders, they're the most disappointing team in the NFL.
Yeah, I've said that.
That is your cue.
I know, I've said that.
So you can both apologize and tell me whether or not the Raiders are going to win the division.
I think the Chargers are going to win. The Raiders have 3 of the last 4 on the road. 2 of the Chargers
nap. They go to nap time. They always
do that early. 2 of their 4 teams are the Redskins, who are done, and the Jets.
A war W for San Diego.
I think that, and Denver, again, you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. John Elway has screwed that up.
They don't matter.
Kansas City has fallen to such a degree, I don't think they can hold it off. I think it'll be the Chargers.
I want you to listen to me. From the person who brought you the Eagles losing last night, Notre Dame losing at least twice.
That's right.
And several other things recently.
Right.
Chaos in the BCS.
That's what is it?
Kansas City is going to recover and win the division.
Fine. Good for you.
Isn't everybody taking Tiger's performance in a silly season event too seriously, Mr. Kornheiser?
No, they're not taking it too seriously. Tiger did something. First of all, he had 3 rounds in the 60s. If you have 3 rounds in the 60s, you can contend in most tournaments. More importantly, he hit driver straight and he hit driver long. He went after the driver. You don't do that if your back hurts. He totally went for speed in his swing. He putted well. He chipped better than he has chipped in a very, very long time.
On Saturday.
Okay, he had 1 bad round. I think the danger here is understating it.
No, there's no danger in understating it, because then you would sound reasonable and rational and not like a SEC football fan. I hope what you already believe in. I hope Tiger continues to play pain-free. What's the schedule going to be? How's he going to do that?
No idea.
Is he going to practice the insane hours that he practiced to make himself great?
I don't think he's going to do that.
Then what are we talking about? He's not too old.
Why are you doing this?
VJ did that. Phil does it.
Why are you such a hater?
I'm not hating. I want it to happen.
You're a hater.
I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid like you.
Hater. Enough email.
The sugar-free Kool-Aid you're drinking.
Let's take one last break, but still to come. The Bears stink. They're terrible. We will talk to one of the team's few fans left in a PTI exclusive.
The Rockets have the best record in the West. They can't win it, can they?
Who cares? Tiger looked good. Not great. Looked good.
3 days he looked great.
Well, not great.
He shot in the 60s 3 times.
Fowler.
Okay, guys. Now we're going to find out.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Captain Morgan. Holiday like a captain. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Happy time, people. Happy 33rd birthday, Joe Thomas. The Cleveland Browns' perennial All-Pro left tackle saw his consecutive snap streak end earlier this year at an amazing 10,363 that dated back to when he was drafted in 2007.
Seeing that.
The Browns, though, have kept their streak alive. They've now lost 12 straight games this year, 27 of 28 with soon-to-be ex-coach Hugh Jackson.
You like a Christmas Eve present in Chicago when they play the Bears? Because that's where they're going to win a game. Mark it down now.
I wrote it down.
Did you?
On my yellow pad.
That right.
Happy anniversary, Gus Malzahn. On this day 5 years ago, you were hired by Auburn to replace your former boss, Gene Chizik. In the ensuing years, Malzahn has won 1 SEC championship, and maybe more importantly, has twice beaten Alabama.
Maybe?
Coaches who don't beat Nick Saban get fired. Malzahn just signed a 7-year, $49 million extension.
Everybody in that conference is trying to hire a new coach. Why? To knock off Nick Saban. 100%. That's what they're all doing.
And they're giving him $49 million
to
or
do
something like that. Yeah. Happy trails to the top ring of the Silverdome after a partial implosion designed to take down the top half of the stadium. Embarrassingly failed to get the desired effect yesterday morning. Demolition crews took a second crack this afternoon with much greater success. As you can see, today's collapse
that was some
more in line with what Lions fans are used to seeing.
So they only got 7-8 more stadiums in Detroit that are unused. Like, is the Palace of Auburn Hill still standing?
That's a good view. There was no MARTA bus like in Atlanta to block the view. No errors today. Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
The Rockets have the best record in the Western Conference at 18-4. Is that significant?
Yes. I mean, get Golden State's attention at least a little bit. Yes, it's significant. Those guys are playing well together. Shohei Ohtani has reportedly turned down the Yankees, Red Sox, Nationals, among others. Where would you advise him to play?
I always thought he'd play on the West Coast. I thought either the Giants or more likely the Seattle Mariners, where Ichiro started, where he can
Hall of Fame
DH.
career.
He can DH, which is what he wants. That's what I thought.
Babe Ruth.
Robbie Gould,
my boy,
made 5 field goals to beat the Bears. Didn't the Bears used to have a player named Robbie Gould?
Yeah, and then they cut him for a guy who was 25 yards wide right a couple of weeks ago. Robbie Gould, all of the Niners' points scored by Robbie Gould. I love him. Congratulations. Arizona State officially hired a man, Herm Edwards, as head coach. Scott Frost left Central Florida for Nebraska. You like that?
I do. I think Scott Frost will do very well there, and of course we wish Herm Edwards
we
luck.
do.
Last one, Monday Night Football. Steelers at Bengals tonight. Who you got?
Antonio Brown may not be out there, but Tony, Bucks Celtics. I know it's early for you, but the first 2 games of that, they were great. I'm watching that. I'm telling you.
I'm
Bucks
stifling
Celtics,
my yawn.
The freak.
We're out of time. We'll try to do better the next time.
Against the MVP elect. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Now we send you to Susie Carver and Monday Night Countdown in Cincinnati.
Send us that Cincinnati chili if you could. Is that any good?
That's really good. It is.